Now, what's extraordinary about modern Greece is that there isn't a proper land registry for a lot of the areas in agricultural Greece. I spent a year or so in the Peloponnese as a goat herder, among other things, on the mountains of the Taygetos between, well, just south of Sparta, just beyond Mistra, and as I say, up into the mountains. It was wondrous. But I was involved in thrashing out some of the Greek forest fires, some of the Greek mountain fires. That was terrifying. So I have personal experience of firefighting in the countryside in Greece. And all the way through the fire, people were running around saying, "This is arson." And eventually, I think arsonists were identified and they were fined. And I just thought, why would anybody do this? And I remember walking through some of the charred landscape. It was like walking through a scene in Dante's Inferno, and the olive trees were smoking, and some of them were slightly glowing days after the fire had finished. And it was it was an extraordinary spectacle going on for as far as you could see. And part of the problem is that a lot of the land, people didn't know who it belonged to. Now, if you go north of the border into Albania in 1995, I think, people started a land registry. People have been calling for a land registry. So the land registry began even before Enver Hoxha had died, I think, in Albania. And if you look at the Albanian fires, there are Albanian fires, and you then look in contrast at the Greek fires, there's more Greek fires because there's no land registry. And the bureaucracy is simply mindless. Everything is centralised and everything is inefficient. What you've got is layers of bureaucracy. You've got the Greek bureaucracy. You've got the German bureaucracy that they admire so much. You've got this European bureaucracy, and none of it has really changed. I remember being caught up in the Greek bureaucracy shortly after I had arrived in Greece, and I'd been employed. I had a variety of jobs, but at one point I was employed by an educational publisher. And the owner realized that not only could I write, which I was doing, but I could also record the voices, and I was doing that for a rival company. He wanted me recording for his company, and then he realized I'd also been doing illustrations for another rival company. He wanted me doing that as well, but his idea was that I couldn't do all three things for the same salary, and therefore I would have to be self-employed. And he insisted on my being self-employed in order to get my first month's paycheck. And that meant I had to take 2 weeks out to go through the Greek bureaucracy. And in the end, I'm afraid I burst into tears in a police station. And the police helped me. They thought it was very strange, and they chatted away in Greek, but I did understand what they were saying, and I was able to intervene and make some comment of my own. And I think it was the fact that I came back with a quick comment that anchored my success. Otherwise, I think I would still be there today. And anyway, the point I'm making is that Mahyar Tousi, clickbait. I have to learn how he does it. Mahyar Tousi's made a video where he's saying that the mainstream media is promoting a fake idea that the Greek fires are all about climate change. Not so. Well, actually, he concedes. Listen to this little sentence in the middle of his spiel. Here.
Now, it is of course also true that because of the heat wave and because of the temperature in the summer, it's also harder to put out these fires.
You see, here he concedes my point exactly, that however the Greek fires started, they are made significantly worse and significantly more uncontrollable because of the rise in temperatures, and that is climate change. But yes, ground just doesn't get very hot and then spontaneously combusts. We're not living on Venus with a combustible Earth. We're living on Earth, where fire has to be started, and unless you have a fork of thunder, sort of igniting a local tree, as in Jungle Book, no, there is no spontaneous fire. And fire is either a consequence of somebody deliberately setting fire to something, or it's a result of accident and stupidity. So if you're looking for the fires, you either look at a tourist site where somebody has had a silly campfire, or you look at somebody who, a sort of down on his luck local farmer who wants to grab the land next door because it's not accounted for, and because the fire will erase the records or redefine the land in some strange way. I think they're wrong. I think these people who are doing this are mistaken. But as I say, the problem is the lack of a proper land registry. And if it can be done in Albania, if it can be done in Turkey, and if it cannot be done in a European nation like Greece, then it's another black mark for Europe. Now, I was very critical of Europe, partly because of the way that it treated Greece, but I was also critical of Greece for the way it flouted rules and for the way the rules were there, and everyone except for foreigners ignored the rules. I thought, here are the rules. This is what I've got to do, and I did it, and I realized I was the only person doing it. And if the rules are on the paper, that's what we follow. And in some ways, I felt this was one reason why in Britain we had a big problem with Europe, because we were following all those rules, and most of the Europeans, really, they just said, oh, it's just the paperwork. It doesn't mean anything. They live for many, many years with this sort of dodgy sort of backsheesh half-life. And we in Britain don't seem to like that. Maybe we're getting used to it now that we've left Europe. But it's so for that reason, I felt that we should put pressure on Europe to change. I never advocated leaving Europe. I didn't think Brexit was ever a good idea. And do remember, we get the name Brexit because of Greece's threats to leave Europe. Grexit. So the word Brexit is derivative, comes from Greece. And as I say, Mahyar Tousi, excellent clickbait for this video. I give him 10 out of 10 for that one. But the illusion he gives is not entirely the case. The reality is, and we've just been recently discovering it, the reality is that the arsonists are taking advantage of climate change and the high temperatures, and the fires take light so much easier. But at the same time, they are therefore so much more out of control, and the fires go well beyond what I think is intended, even by the most maniacal arsonist. Are there climate change people setting fire to make a point? I think that is fantasy.
We got Nat on Twitter saying, there's a lot of people who like to play with matches and watching things burn. Could there be climate activists among them? If not, could some of them have been encouraged by climate activists? So many questions. A thorough investigation is needed. Now, when you ask these questions, The establishment would accuse you of being a tinfoil hat nutter. I mean, we're just asking questions. I'm not claiming that I have evidence that these were, in fact, climate activists. No, but it's just a little bit suspicious. Well, but I'm not even actually saying they were directly. I'm just saying it could be something else.
Actually, one of the things Mahyar says is that there's is that mainstream media has not been reporting this. There's an article in the Independent which says exactly what I know to be the case, that people in Greece often build buildings and cut down forests and then realize that they've done something inappropriate. The town council wants to catch up with them. The only way out is to either go through very complex legislation, or to start a fire. They choose the easy option, and that's there. What was it now? The latest legislation effort has been lauded as a revenue-raising exercise, regardless of consequences in other areas, such as, coincidentally, ecological management and fire security. And so enterprising sorts take advantage of fire to the forest, removing the barrier so they can build homes without care for regulations in inaccessible areas on land they often do not own. The fire burns, people die, developers build, and votes are won. It's about a completely corrupt part of Greek society. It's been there for the last 20 years or more. I was in Greece in 1998, and it was certainly there then. In fact, I'm so sorry. I was in Greece in 1987, and it was there then. So it's been ongoing in Greek society for 40 years. I cannot imagine it's changed. I remember also in Athens, there were many polykatechia housing developments with the top floor unfinished. Why unfinished? I asked gamely and naively. Oh, well, because if it were finished, then there would be a tax. So these columns, concrete columns, just left standing into the sky, because that demonstrated that the building that people were already living in was unfinished, and therefore that final tax was not necessary. So forest fires, tax evasion, absolutely, Mahyar, bang on. But mainstream media has covered some of that.